"You've barely touched your espresso, my love," my wife Sophia remarked, her voice a carefully composed melody of feigned concern. "I had the barista make it just the way you like, with that hint of cardamom." We were at her brother David's minimalist penthouse for our weekly Sunday brunch, an event that had slowly morphed from a pleasant tradition into a nerve-wracking ordeal where I felt more like an unwilling participant in a play. A sharp, almost sterile chemical odor wafted from the tiny cup before me, a scent that had become my personal alarm bell, a silent scream in a quiet room. My name is Ethan, and at 34, I never thought I'd be analyzing my wife's every move for signs of malice. But the last year had been a masterclass in betrayal, a slow drip poison of doubt punctuated by sudden bouts of vertigo, debilitating migraines, and accidental illnesses that always seemed to strike at the most professionally inconvenient times. And they always seemed to happen when David was around. He had this polished, predatory grace, a knack for orchestrating my professional failures while wearing a mask of unwavering support. The very same mask Sophia was wearing now as she watched me, her head tilted in a perfect imitation of loving curiosity. "Just admiring the view," I lied, gesturing towards the floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the Nashville skyline. "You know how much I love this place." My mind, however, was a whirlwind of calculations and memories. The smell from the espresso was identical to the one I'd noticed in a health smoothie David had insisted I try last month. That smoothie had resulted in me missing a crucial client presentation due to a sudden, violent dizzy spell that left me clinging to my desk, the room spinning like a carousel. Sophia had been so worried, rushing me home while David, I later learned, graciously stepped in to save the day with the client. David, leaning back in his chair with a self-satisfied smirk he probably thought was charming, chimed in. "Sophia's been taking notes on your coffee habits. She's determined to find the perfect blend for you, Ethan. A man at the top of his game needs his fuel, right?" The emphasis he placed on my name was subtle, a silken threat woven into a compliment. Their recent closeness hadn't escaped my notice. It was more than just sibling affection. It was the late-night project planning sessions at David's apartment, the hushed phone calls that ended the moment I entered the room, the way they communicated with shared, knowing glances across a crowded room. It all pointed to a conspiracy, and I suspected this espresso was its latest weapon. I had even started documenting the incidents in a locked file on my personal computer. Dates, times, symptoms, and who was present. Reading it back to myself felt like the paranoid ramblings of a madman, yet the pattern was undeniable. I picked up the cup, my hand a marvel of steadiness despite the adrenaline coursing through me. I brought it halfway to my mouth, my eyes locked on theirs over the rim. There it was, a flicker of shared anticipation, a micro-expression of triumph that lasted less than a second, but told me everything. It was all the proof I needed. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a timed alarm I had set before leaving the house, my own small piece of stagecraft. I glanced at it with practiced annoyance. Ugh, it's the lead architect from the Sterling Tower project. I have to take this. David, is it all right if I step onto the balcony for some privacy? The reception is better out there. As I stood and moved past David's chair, I feigned a misstep, my arm lurching out as if to catch my balance. In that brief, manufactured moment of confusion, my hand darted down, and with a sleight of hand I'd been practicing in my own office with empty cups for weeks. I switched his untouched espresso cup with mine. It was a fluid, almost invisible motion. "Whoops, so sorry," I said, straightening my jacket, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Nearly took out your drink." David's smile was tight, a thin veneer over his impatience. "No worries, Ethan. Just close the door, will you? There's a draft." "Of course," I said, stepping onto the balcony. I didn't close the glass door completely, leaving just enough of a gap to see them, my own reflection a ghostly observer in the glass. My part was played. The trap was set. Now, I just had to watch it spring. Through the gap, I watched David pick up the espresso cup, my espresso cup, and take a thoughtful sip. He swirled it, pretending to be a connoisseur. A cold knot of vindication and fear tightened in my stomach. I had endured too many unexplained episodes. The vertigo that hit me during a delicate model presentation, forcing me to grip the table like a drowning man. The blinding migraine that struck the day of a major deadline, making it impossible to look at a computer screen. Always they were there, Sophia and David, offering sympathy, fetching water, and, I now realized, observing the results of their insidious experiments. It wasn't always this way. Sophia and I had been the golden couple of our architecture firm. We met there, fell in love over blueprints and late-night deadlines, our shared passion for design forging a powerful bond. David, her older brother and a senior partner at a rival firm, had always been intensely competitive, but I'd mistaken it for ambition. Now I saw it for what it was, a corrosive jealousy that had festered for years, curdling his ambition into something malevolent. He couldn't stand that I, an outsider, had achieved a level of recognition within my firm that he felt he had to fight much harder for at his. I gripped the balcony railing, watching as David took a second, larger swallow of the espresso. Sophia was scrolling on her phone, a perfect portrait of modern nonchalance, but her foot was tapping restlessly under the table. Then I saw it. A subtle tremor in David's hand as he set the cup down. His confident posture faltered. He blinked hard, as if trying to clear his vision. "Sophia," he said, his voice strained, losing its smooth, confident edge. "This coffee, it tastes off. A bit metallic." Sophia looked up from her phone, her brow furrowed in annoyance, but her expression morphed into one of pure panic when she saw his face. He was pale, a sheen of sweat glistening on his forehead. "David? What's wrong? Are you okay?" His hands began to shake uncontrollably. The room is spinning," he gasped. He tried to push his chair back but stumbled, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrified understanding. He looked at Sophia, his voice a choked whisper, filled with accusation. "What did you put in this?" I stepped back into the room, my phone held up, its red recording light glowing like a malevolent eye. Sophia was at his side, her face a mask of terror and confusion. "That wasn't for you!" she cried out, her voice a frantic whisper that echoed in the silent, sunlit room. David's face contorted as the full weight of the situation hit him. He understood. He knew what was happening to his body because it was what he had intended for mine. "Call 911, he managed to say, his body slumping to the floor. "Now." I was already dialing, my voice calm and collected as I relayed the address and symptoms to the dispatcher. Inside, a storm of emotions raged. Anger, grief, a bitter taste of victory. But on the surface, I was ice. David was on the floor, his body twitching, a low groan escaping his lips. Sophia was kneeling beside him, her carefully constructed world shattering around her. "My brother-in-law appears to be having some sort of seizure," I told the dispatcher, keeping the phone's camera steady on the unfolding drama. David's eyes, glazed with pain, found mine. You switched them." He breathed, the words barely audible. "You knew." The approaching wail of sirens was the most beautiful, validating sound I had ever heard. "Stop talking, David!" Sophia shrieked, her panic overriding all reason. "He needs to know," David shot back, his words slurred by the drug's effects. "You said it would just mess with his equilibrium. Make him miss the Sterling Tower pitch on Tuesday. You promised it was temporary." The Sterling Tower, the biggest project of my career. A legacy project. A project David's firm was also competing for. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place with sickening clarity. "And the foundation inspection I missed last month because of food poisoning?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "And the client dinner where I suddenly got sick and had to leave you to smooth things over? That was all you?" David just groaned in response as the paramedics swarmed the room. I ended the recording as they worked on him, saving the file and immediately emailing it to my lawyer and my private cloud storage. Sophia stood by, a statue of disbelief, watching her brother being loaded onto a stretcher. "I'll meet you at the hospital," she told me, her voice trembling, attempting to reclaim the role of the worried wife. I looked at her, my expression a blank wall she couldn't read. "I'm sure you will," I said. "And I'm sure the toxicology department will be fascinated to learn what exactly David drank." At the hospital, the truth unspooled with clinical efficiency. The recording was irrefutable. Sophia, under the pressure of police questioning and faced with the video evidence, confessed everything. They had been using a potent, experimental drug obtained through one of David's university contacts that induces severe vertigo and neurological disruption. It was David's idea, a way to professionally sabotage me and win the Sterling Tower contract. Their plan was to make me seem unreliable, unstable, and ultimately a liability my firm couldn't afford. The trial was short. The evidence, my video, their text messages planning the dosages, the vial of the drug found in David's office desk during a warranted search, was overwhelming. They were both sentenced for aggravated assault and conspiracy, their bright careers extinguished by their own dark jealousy. It's been a year. I won the Sterling Tower contract. My firm, horrified by what I had endured, promoted me to partner. Life is good. It's quiet. But every morning, when I brew my own coffee in my own kitchen, a kitchen Sophia will never see, I take a moment. I remember the bitter, chemical taste of betrayal. And I feel a quiet gratitude for my own instincts, the only thing that stood between me and a fall I might never have recovered from. The best victory, I've learned, isn't about watching others fail. It's about having the strength to stand tall on your own, to trust yourself when the people you love most give you every reason not to.